Hi everyone, welcome. This is Lotus with Art of Sacred Embodiment. I wanted to bring to you a video today on the 4 keys of sacred embodiment. So we've talked about before that the Ascension process in and of itself is quite vast, and there are a lot of different components and a lot of different areas of specialty, and where a number of different people, their blueprints, what they're here for, are going to connect to different things that the Ascension process holds, that we teach about, that we share about, that we activate and help to support others with, and that we're supported with as well. So my area right now tends to be within the realm of embodiment, and how do we really ground in what is happening into our physical form and really get an experiential handle on it. And it's based on stages and phases. So one of the foundational pieces that I work with people with is the 4 keys of sacred embodiment. So when we're talking about the 4 keys, it doesn't mean that this is the only way, but this is the way that I have found through my experience to access, activate, and then really anchor in and embody the higher frequencies. So when we've talked about these higher frequencies, what we're talking about are, if we break it down in a way that we can really understand it, as these energies are qualities, right? They are qualities that we can look at as qualities of emotion, qualities of thoughts, qualities of being, states of being. So one of the first fundamental components that we've been taught from ancient times has everything to do with centering in a meditative state, right? So allowing all of our energy that's normally outside of us, that's normally drawn outside of us, that is stimulated, right, to enjoy life in the world. So that is all fine and good, but really what we need to remember is that our transformation, though it takes place in the world and can be assisted by things in the world, people, places, things, it's really going to happen inside of us. And so the purpose of going within and of really anchoring into your sacred center, right? This is how we become to know thyself. This is how we find that inner stillness where we can always dial back into as our guidepost, right? As our compass. We can read our inner compass of what is right and true for us best when we are accessing our own energy. So that means we're pulling our awareness in from the outer stimulus into our own inner being and learning how to connect not only with our own heart, with divine source, but also our multidimensional reality, okay? In a grounded, clear way that imparts wisdom to us, that imparts higher knowing, and that allows us and enables us and facilitates traveling this ascension journey with a sense of groundedness, with a sense of faith and trust and safety, all of those things that we know within us, right? So the more that we dial within our own being, the less that we need to seek outside of us for help and assistance. However, it's always helpful in the beginning, and that's why there are so many of us all sharing what we know. Doesn't matter what stage of development we're in. We all have something to share, and it's really tapping into what is your authentic voice, what is your authentic purpose? What is your divine calling? But that goes along the steps, and we're going to get to that, okay? But first know that we need to know how to come inside our own being. We need to know how to quiet the ego mind, right? And the stories and the drama to connect to our higher mind, our highest self, and our heart. And that is really going to happen through learning how to come into our sacred center, because that creates the foundation for next level learning, right? For climbing up the ladder. So the second key is all about, once we've developed that sacred center, we want to tap into our own truth and everything that divides us from knowing that we are love. So oftentimes the first step to accessing self-love and to being able to really practice that is self-acceptance, right? So it's learning how to be gentle with ourselves, to recognize where we're hard on ourselves, where we're judging ourselves, where we're running stories, whether we've told them, whether we've learned them, that reflect our self-rejection, that reflect our attachment to pain and suffering, that reflect our own dissatisfaction with our being and who we are and how we operate in the world. Self-acceptance also gives us a buffer, right? To, when we're not judging, we're able then to explore, well, why do I function in the way that I do? And instead of rejecting myself with shame and guilt, I get to understand more deeply who I am. What is my true nature underneath the distortions that I have been programmed with, that I've assimilated from maybe family of origin, from my own experiences, and recognize that those are not my truth and begin to release them. And as we begin to do that, we start to be able to practice moving into our heart space and functioning from our heart space more readily, more easily, and using love, self-appreciation, self-compassion as our compass. That becomes the flavor, right, with which we then start creating a whole new life. So that would be the second phase. And then we begin to move into divine aligning. Now, it's important to recognize that when we're working multidimensionally, we can have all sorts of multidimensional experiences, right? We can connect briefly with higher beings. We can go through different modalities that turn us on and help us to recognize and realize that there is much more than what the eye meets. But what we're really looking for is to sustain that knowledge from that experience and then be able to access that in a fuller way, in a way that supports our growth with consistency and continuity, right? That's the right word. The continuity. So that we don't have to keep having experiences in whatever way that we're drawn to that do assist us, but it becomes more than just the experience, right? We want to glean the wisdom that is being downloaded to us in order to transform us. But that transformation happens energetically through the qualities of our emotions, our feelings, our thought forms, our actions, our behaviors that we want to bring into a level of integrity and alignment. So the next phase is divine aligning. So when we talk about co-creating and manifesting, the manifestation phase of the ascension process, right? Because we are learning that we are co-creators with the divine, but it's energetic. So our container, our being, has to be vibrating, has to be oscillating, right, on a cellular level with the frequencies that we want to be creating. So if I want to be creating, let's just use a state of being, a state of joy and peace in my life, then what I have to do is I have to be transforming my cellular structure through the initial stages, right? Because it is going to be whatever that cellular vibration is that's going to affect my consciousness, that consciously or subconsciously will draw that matching vibration. So if I have a lot of grief or anger and my mind is only thinking, I want joy, and so I'm going to attempt to choose those things that are going to bring me joy, right? Maybe that means I'm going to go spend more time outside because I feel joyful. That is a great start. However, if we're not going to embody enough of that energy to transmute our grief and anger, that grief and anger is still going to have some pull. So I may feel joy when I'm in the outdoors, but I'm not going to be able to sustain it, right? I'm not going to be able to sustain that frequency. So this is why this is a process, right? This is an ongoing process. So when we want to divinely align, the stepping stone for that is going to be our self-acceptance, self-appreciation, self-love, and self-honor. Because it's only when I am knowing those things about myself that I will be able to say yes to those things that are going to bring me into that higher alignment. I'm going to then develop the faith and trust that comes when we honor ourselves, when we love ourselves, to see that as that happens, the world around us changes and reflects back a reality that we can start to know on a very deep level that where we're going, we can keep making the choices to get there. Okay? So trying to make this, like, break this down. This is why I teach this in a larger format, because there's a lot of nuances and details. But just know that to divinely align, to be able to say yes to everything that is in our highest good, we cannot be functioning from self-rejection, and we cannot be functioning from an addiction to the programming that humanity has to pain and suffering. So that's the third component and phase. So the next phase is all about activating our divine blueprint. So what is our divine purpose, right? So we all have it already written, encoded in our being. It's already there. And we get glimpses of it, right? We see signs of it all the time by whatever makes our heart go pitter-patter, whatever uplifts us, whatever brings us passion, right? Whatever sparks a deeper knowing about what we love and what we want to bring to others. So activating the divine blueprint comes from being able to be in a divine alignment. It needs to come from being able to say yes with complete faith and trust to turn on our next level of our passion and purpose. That passion and purpose will then inspire whatever it is that we're here to do. And we don't have to know really what that is. We don't have to know for sure, like, oh, it's going to look this way or that way. And it's sometimes best if we don't try to figure it out, right? Because the mind is limited. The mind functions, the brain, okay, our egoic brain functions from programming, rationale, logic, and it is a limited construct. The heart and the soul and our highest self know all of the potentials that we can access when we're able to completely surrender into our alignment and say yes to we're ready to next level. I'm ready to step up to whatever I can manifest at this time. And it's going to be a frequency. It's not necessarily going to be, I am planning A, B, and C in the material world, and it's going to look like this. It's most likely going to be reflecting back on whatever frequency that we're able to be functioning from and holding, embodying, anchoring in our system, i.e., creating and living a new reality. Okay, so that's really where we're going and what we're looking at within these initial phases, within these steps and stages for getting to the point to where we can say, I know exactly who I am at this stage of my evolution. I can enter into my own silence. I can discern between what's true and what is noise and disillusion, okay, and distortion. I can fully accept all aspects of myself, the shadow and the light, and continue to transmute through my self-acceptance, through self-compassion, through my self-love, and honor my entire journey and come into divine alignment that begins to empower my ongoing downloading higher levels of frequency and expanding my consciousness so that I can step into a role of service. So that, in a nutshell, are those 4 keys that I work with of sacred embodiment. And once again, I do that within an immersion or workshop format with exercises, experiential exercises, and this can be done online. And I also am going to be putting these classes on my new website, which is not up yet, and I'm still working on that, so that you can work with it at your own rate. I also will be doing them live and in person. And that's a really great way to do it because we'll get to work with one another with some of these exercises. The information is only one piece of this entire journey that we're on. It's about 10%, right? 90% of it is going to be experiential, and it's going to be ongoing embodiment learning, gleaning wisdom that we can sustain and not just glimpse. But what that means is we have to be committed to it, right? We can't just be running around outside. Find your path. Find what it is that activates your being in the way that's true for you, and then dial in to the levels of your own inner work and in your own solitude to really know the nuts and bolts of how you need to grow and transform. Okay? So that is it for now. Thank you so much, and I look forward to sharing more with you soon. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.